Now, on our left, my left, we have the Wren Library, Trinity College's library, named after its designer, Christopher Wren. Have you heard of Christopher Wren? He was a really renowned architect. He helped build a lot of London after the Great Fire, and he designed St Paul's Cathedral, which is the biggest cathedral in London. It's a very important architect. And I love this building. This is one of my favourite buildings because of one simple idea. You can see in all of the other kind of buildings, the brickwork is the same, very flat colour. And you know, it's meant to be symmetrical along with the neoclassical sort of style. But as you can see, Christopher Wren had the simple idea. This building is next to a river, and always the light reflects off the river and ripples, and you get a kind of painterly ripple effect with the light. And he wanted to mirror that onto this building. So he chose the brickwork very carefully and chose the colours in the rich reds and very light white colours. And he placed it where he wanted to place it in a very random painterly effect, which I think is very beautiful.
I like the colour variations.
And quite a new idea of the time to not have symmetry would have been very different. And it's kind of something that you kind of can pass by and not notice, but when you think about it, it's really quite beautiful. He also designed the bottom floor to have no real windows or doors, just a courtyard. So just in case the river would flood, the water would run through, protecting the structure and all the books on the second floor. Because this is the archive library. This is where Trinity College keep their oldest books. And they have some really amazing books. They have the St James Bible, the first ever English translation of the Bible from Latin. It also has, as Sir Isaac Newton lived here for about 30 years, it has his first publication of his theories on gravity.
So girls, you can go in here. All of you, when you come back, you can go in here.
They keep in here. They even have some of William Shakespeare's handwritten sonnets
In there?
in there. Some of the few works with his original signature on. Because there has been controversy over, did Shakespeare write all of his plays? Was it somebody else? This is William Shakespeare. It has his signature.
And that's what? The name of the building?
Yeah, in the library, in the Trinity Library. But I have to say my favourite, much more interesting than the Bible and Shakespeare, they have the first ever copy of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh.
A.A. Milne went to Trinity and donated his original drawings and his first ever book. I love Winnie the Pooh. It's amazing. But yeah, incredible library. Each college has their own individual library, but there is the Cambridge University Library. You can see this tower just coming up over the trees to our right. That's the Cambridge University Library, just over there. And this is a copyright library. So by law, they have to have at least one copy of every single UK publication. So they have millions of books in this library. It's enormous. There's about, I think, 6 copyright libraries in the UK. A couple in London, one in Edinburgh, one here. I can't remember what the others are. Yeah, huge library.
So if Prince Charles went to that university, why didn't William and Harry go to the same one that their dad went to? Just out of choice?
Why did they go there as well?
Yeah, why didn't they go to the same one as their dad?
They did study at Trinity.
Did they? And then they finished in Scotland? Because didn't he go to the university in Scotland?
I can tell you for sure actually, I'm not sure about William or Harry. But I was told that they came to Trinity, but I don't know what they ended up doing in the end. I don't think any of the royals are very clever. Not very good at getting their qualifications. That's something my uncle always said when I didn't do too well at school. He was always like, oh, you're better than the royals. But they're very... There you go. Tommy Triggers just said all three of them went to Trinity.
Oh, okay.
This is one of the most beautiful gardens, the Clare Fellows Garden. And really beautiful to walk around. Some really beautiful sculptures in it. It's a team of gardeners every day, making it very beautiful. It's been there for about 500 years. Yeah, they've been gardening this garden for 500 years.
That's which one? This one over here.
That's a Clare College, which is over there. It's almost more impressive than the buildings in a way, gardening this garden for 500 years with a fellow student. So, you want to hear about some student mischief?
Do we want to hear?
Yeah. It's been a kind of tradition for decades for the students to climb up and scale up the colleges and chapels at night time. There's even been a book published about them, the Cambridge Night Climbers. It's one of those kind of secret social societies that this university has. And they do weird things. You know, it started off, I think, just like pulling pranks on, you know, their friends and such forth, and it just got to bigger and bigger scales. And basically, a couple of years ago, one of the night climbers, at night, without being seen or caught, he scaled up to the very top spire of the chapel just to put a traffic cone on the top of it. So they were kind of like trying to outdo each other with these strange objects. But obviously, you know, being a house of God, having thousands of visitors a year, you know, the college had to take this down immediately. But none of the porters fancied climbing up, because that would be the only way. You can't actually access it from the inside. So the only way they could really realistically get it down without damaging the brickwork or, you know, breaching any health and safety was to build scaffolding from the ground up. This is about 80 foot. So after 2 days of building, and this cost them hundreds of pounds by the way, after 2 days of building they were almost at the top. They stopped building, you know, went home and said we'll get it done in the morning. And that night, one of the night climbers scaled up and moved it to the opposite spire. So they had to take the scaffolding all the way down, build it up on the other side, just to take it down. Very naughty. But yeah, there's been all sorts of strange things. There's been a toilet seat put onto the entrance of the Senate House. With Santa hats all the way along the spires. Quite impressive. But one of the best pranks was back in the 60s. We have these little security guards, I don't know if you've seen them. They wear these little bowler hats. They're often quite sort of big and square, so they gained the name of the Bulldogs. And one of these security guards was very grumpy, particularly grumpy. And he was a big guy, and they found it quite amusing how this really big guy drove this tiny little Mini Cooper. And one day he came up to find his car, and then instead of it being in the parking space, it was about 25 foot up on top of the Senate House. And it's believed that within a matter of a few hours, the engineering students, without being heard, seen or caught again, managed to take apart this Mini Cooper and put it back together again on top of this building. And the college just craned it down because they found that easier than taking it apart and putting it back together again.
So they obviously spend a great deal of time trying to figure out who's going to outdo what.
Guys, they're gone.
that complements the other side of the riverbank. Ultimately, it's going to lift it to literally words.
So this part of the river, this is very thin. And that's because this officially isn't a river really. A lot of this is just a canal, it's man-made. Because King Henry V had the river redirected. It used to run about 100 yards parallel and joined up where we turned around. But it redirected to be shallower at points, because it's very shallow at King's, and to be closer to the colleges. Back in the days, the boats would have been a form of transport. And also they made it very shallow at King's, and they put all the concrete in the bottom of the bed, so it was shallow enough for the horses to actually walk along the bed, pulling the punts along to carry goods. Because Silver Street, where we started, was named Silver Street because you had to give one silver coin to pass through to the mill pond where the mill was, where they did a lot of the kind of trading and stuff. So that's how kind of punting came about. It's only been a lot like a leisurely thing for about 50 years or so. Before it was always used to transport goods and such forth. Another quite interesting thing, have you ever heard of the phrase daylight robbery?
Daylight robbery?
Yeah. Like when something is very expensive, too expensive and you're getting ripped off, we say it's like daylight robbery, and that came from, back in the day, they used to tax you depending on how big your windows were. So a display of your wealth wasn't how big the building was, but how many and how big your windows were, how much light you could let into your house. So these windows, these were very small for the servants, because they don't deserve light. So they save money to do that. And that's how the phrase daylight robbery came from. They were literally taxing you for daylight. Crazy. Yeah, that's why some of them were bricked up and very small, because they wanted to save a bit of money, because the servants didn't get any lights in their room.
We complain about it being cloudy.
Yeah. Anybody a fan of Pink Floyd at all?
I know who they are.
Yeah? Well, they came from Cambridge. Sid Barrett has lived here for many years. I used to see him actually in my local pharmacist. So yeah, they grew up here on this pub on the left, the Anchor. It used to be called the Riverside Jazz Bar, and it's where they played their first few gigs as a band. Also, they had that very famous album cover with a cow in it. And they have a song called Grantchester Meadows. Basically, if you go a few miles upriver, you'll get to the Grantchester Meadows. And they're a very beautiful place where many of you creatives went to write such forth. Like Lord Byron of Trinity is a very famous poet. There is a pool named Byron's Pool. It's a very beautiful place to go. Okay.
And we're from Boston.
Ah, right.